Hey, it pulled up, Tarek, as you're walking away.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, we'll start off with our activity reports, but we do have a couple of things. We are going to take up the report from Stearns County, which is new business A after the open forum. And then we also have the library handicap accessible door opener, new business E, which we will take up probably right after we listen to Janelle. That way Kateri can get out of here. Otherwise, everything else is as planned. Reports. I don't have anything really of note to report. I attended our working session retreat last week. That's about it. Part of that was for me to get in touch with our state legislators to talk about ongoing funding with the fire hall and some of the other issues. I do have meetings scheduled, so Tarek and I are going to be heading down there in mid-March. Otherwise, that's all I have. I'll turn it over to you, Paul.
The council retreat in the League of Minnesota Cities, not last weekend, but the weekend before, up in Alexandria.
Okay. Megan?
I had our ad hoc library committee, and we had some guests from an architecture firm who went through their vision with us, among other things. I had the LMC Elected Leaders Institute as well, and then we had the special city council meeting in retreat.
Neil?
The same LMC meeting over the weekend of the 31st and 1st at ALEC. Pretty good training, a lot on leadership. I thought we knew everything, but you can always learn something new, I guess.
Indeed.
And our council retreat where we discussed all the department's wants, wishes, and needs. And tonight we have Public Works, and three things are on our agenda for purchases, and talked a lot about the snow plowing contract for next year and what we're gonna do.
Were any members of the council able to go on today's downtown committee sort of tour? Oh, okay.
I tried, but I worked last night and I didn't wake up.
How dare you work overnight?
Also, I think Donna's still in Louisiana, come to think of it.
Yeah.
So,
And then just one last thing I forgot to mention, our next council meeting on the 24th, I will not be able to make it. My wife's going to be in the hospital that day, so Neil, you get to be in charge on the 24th.
Oh, boy.
I know. Everyone prepare yourself.
You better prepare Patty.
Gavel's gonna
Yeah.
be working overtime.
Combat gear.
We'll get Patty some
My
benzos.
head gets a little big.
Oh, Lord.
All right, going to department head reports. Chief, you're up first on my list here.
Thank you. Not a ton to report. Pretty much I told you guys everything at the council retreat. Just a reminder, there are still 5 days left of winter parking. I know there's no snow right now, but there is the expected storm coming the end of this weekend, so we really don't want to have to tow anybody if it does actually snow versus rain. Like I'd mentioned, we'll be having a department meeting next Wednesday to address some of the major issues that we see as a department within the community, so we're going to talk about that. One of those things that we discussed at the retreat will be the public nuisance, so just kind of as a reminder to everybody that as the weather gets nice, to get out into the yards and clean things up. That way we can avoid having to send letters and go through abatement and that sort of thing. Other than that, Sergeant Hokinson is almost done with his leadership training with the BCA. He's got a half a class to finish, so that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Dan?
Jason and I attended the Minnesota Rural Water School for water and wastewater last week, the 4th through the 6th. Always a very good school and good to visit with people. We had a meeting also last week with the FBO coming for the new FBO building out at the airport. Discuss their needs and how we can help them along. as Neil said, we had a public works board meeting, to discuss vehicles and snow plowing. I ordered picnic tables for Amby Park. They just got a confirmation today they're on the way, so we'll get them assembled and ready to go.
How is that coming along out there?
Well, we just had some discussion at our other meeting today. Somebody said that there was some tires that got popped. So I had the guys go out and look.
Bicycle tires,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, bicycle tires around the shelter. So I had the guys go out and look, and there were metal shavings around the area. So they got a hold of the contractor, and the contractor went out to do cleanup, and then I also had them surround the area so that it's closed until construction is finished. So we took care of that. Reminder, spring cleanup is April 26th, and Waterfest is May 16th.
So with April 26th then, does that mean we're looking at the, what do we call our scavenger days, the weekend prior?
Weekend after.
Weekend after is when we do it? I thought it
Wait,
was before.
yeah, it's before, because then
Prior.
whatever you can bring to the
So the 19th,
spring cleanup.
if my math is right.
Is it just a couple days before or the weekend before?
Usually the weekend before, so I thought you said the 26th. So that would be the 19th, yes?
I don't remember the details, but Kristen and I went through it, so Kristen's got it, and she's already put it into the newsletter.
Perfect. I just know I saw something on what Neil has described as the devil's playground on Facebook this weekend. So, thank you.
Good
Okay,
times.
thank you, sir. Anything else? I didn't mean to cut you off. Are you good?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say also, I know you and Lee went out, there was that house over by the elementary school. You got it shoveled and cleared right before it all melted. So, thank you for taking care of that. I know from picking up my son, it was a mess trying to get through there. So, thank you guys for doing that. Any other questions for Dan? Okay, Tarek.
All right, had a call with DEED, which is Department of Employment and Economic Development in St. Paul, about programs available and grants for a local business that's looking to expand. So we kind of went over the various programs and the process for applying for them. I also was with Megan at the library meeting, which we had an architect present to us their vision for the new library. And then Chuck and I went to Stearns County for the Stearns County Planning meeting, and that will be a discussion item coming up here on the agenda. Special council retreat, and of course today Chuck and I were at Chuck and I were at the downtown, ad hoc downtown board tour of Battle Lake and Alexandria, where we got to see how they revitalized, and for me it was more particular to Battle Lake because it's a smaller town, how they did some redevelopment there, and everybody thought it was worthwhile. Every board member except for one attended.
Did we come away with information that we can use going forward?
Yes, we did.
All right, any questions for Tarek? All right, is anybody here for our open forum? Yes, sir. If you wouldn't mind just taking to the podium. So we've got 10 minutes. I just ask that you give your name and your address. You can talk to us about whatever you want. If it's on our agenda, we'll take action on it. Otherwise, we'll probably refer it to staff for more consideration, but.
All right, Kevin Veldkamp at 27335 Highway 55. I'm basically looking for some sort of guidance on whether the pulling track will be available for Town and Country Days. The chamber had reached out and asked if if we're able to do it, and I said, but they couldn't answer the question on whether that developer had purchased that section behind the.
Oh,
Nothing has happened at this point.
nothing.
So I know in years past, everything's been coordinated through Ron Mergen. Dan Jens is gonna be the guy to coordinate through from here on out.
Okay,
But as of this point, yeah, nothing has happened with that, so it should be available. I don't
be
see
good
it
to go?
still happening before June, so.
all right, that's all I needed.
Sorry. All right, then with that, we'll go on to our city prosecution contract update. So, Janelle Kendall is here to talk to us.
Good evening. My name is Janelle Kendall. I am the Stearns County Attorney, and I'm now your Painesville City Attorney on the city prosecution. So I want to give you a report back on that, and I also have a couple stories to tell. One of the things that I do with each of my cities as I go out is I read all of your felony investigations for the year, and you have some absolutely fantastic investigations. I want to tell you about a couple of them. But first, let's start with this. These are, what we first start with is our diversion program. The law does require me to have a diversion program for adults and for juveniles, but we get to decide what the criteria for those diversions are. And in Stearns County, we do literally only first-time offenders. We find that after people have been through the system a few times and paid a few tickets, if it hasn't slowed them down, probably not the kind of people that we want to put a lot of extra time into with diversion. So ours are truly first-time offenders. You did have one juvenile who qualified for diversion and was admitted and completed that this year, and the chief will have that person's name. But our diversion numbers have gone down substantially. A lot of the juvenile diversion cases that we used to pass on, we don't even write tickets for anymore. Things like possession of tobacco. For 15 years, the superintendents have told me that marijuana in the schools is a problem. They've been getting it from their parents all along, but now they're getting it from their parents, perhaps legally. The juvenile diversion numbers are just down because, especially in some of the larger jurisdictions, we just don't see as many of those tickets being written. The schools are dealing with it right on the spot, rather than sending it through the system, because candidly, it takes a while to get through the system, and if you wait for a while to get through the system, it just doesn't do as good. On the adult side, our numbers are also going down because we're seeing less first-time offenders. More of the people that we deal with are people that have already been through the system a few times. So the person that we've had working on diversion for a number of years, we're going to shift over to the much bigger problem of truancy. Truancy was very high already in 2017-18, then obviously during the pandemic, things went crazy, and now they're right back to where they were in 2018, even a little higher. So the person who's been doing our diversion work and is used to working with the kids and the families, we're going to shift her over to be doing that work so we can go ahead and shift those resources to a place that we really need them. But on those numbers and the names, your chief will always have those. That's part of my report that comes back to him. So then going to the second page, this is the first year, this is the only year that yours is going to look this short. These are the ones that we actually open files on. Obviously, the Painesville Police Department and the State Patrol and the Sheriff's Office, to the extent that they're involved in things in the city of Painesville, writes a lot more citations than that. We have a lot more misdemeanor charges, but these are the ones that we actually open files on. And I've shared with the chief what the other cities of similar size, you guys are right in there with Melrose, Painesville, Rockville, St. Augusta, Albany, all very, very similar numbers in terms of the actual amount of files that we would open a file on in our office. So all the rest of those probably just paid the ticket. So that's something I also want you to know as a council, that we don't see an overt number of cases that are necessarily contested. These are just the ones that we do. And I talked to the chief of the criminal division today. He talks to your folks all the time. And they do some really fine investigations. So I want to tell you about the 14 felonies that happened in Painesville this year. Our numbers overall on felonies are down in Stearns County, they're down in Minnesota, they're down across the United States. Just generally, crime numbers are down. But what we found is that the size of our files is literally twice as big as it was 2 years ago. Everybody has body cams now. We have the security photos, we have the ring cameras, all the different video and photograph and digital evidence that comes in. So if you look back at the size of a file 2 years ago versus the size now, it's literally twice as big. There's twice as much information. And we saw last year, for example, we would commonly try 30 to 40 jury trials to verdict a year. And last year, we had 50 that got to the morning of trial. We had the entire jury sitting there. We had the witnesses sitting there. And 27 of them pled guilty on the morning of trial. So it didn't save us an ounce of effort. We're ready to go. 23 went to jury trial. And in those cases, in part because of all that evidence that we have, we had a higher than average success rate. We tried 10 sexual assaults last year. That's twice as many as we've ever tried before. So of the 23 cases that actually went to jury, 10 of them were sexual assault. There are not more sexual assaults being reported than before. There are just a lot more jury trials. So what you're kind of seeing overall in criminal justice system and what's going on in the world, we're just trying a lot more of those. Our little dog Nova, who you may have heard about, Our 43-pound golden retriever was on the witness stand 7 times last year. She did testify in many of those sexual assault cases in which children were victims. She's been on Good Morning America, but more importantly, she's been affirmed by the Minnesota Court of Appeals. So we did make new law in the state of Minnesota, and there are now multiple county attorneys' offices that do have those dogs. But Nova was the first, and she was the one that we laid the foundation and got her all the way up to the appellate courts, and they said, you're good to go. So I just want to brag to you about a couple cases that you guys did this last year. Last Christmas, December 25th, 2024, this case is over, so we can talk about names if you want to, but it's really less about the names. Officer Cater rose into a burglary in progress. Absolutely phenomenal investigation. The amount of work that he did in figuring out exactly where the pry marks were, in figuring out exactly where the crowbar was, in communicating with the business owner, was also an extremely dangerous situation. It's Christmas Day, he's out there by himself, and the person was hiding, thankfully not armed. It is just a phenomenal investigation, and the person that he ends up dealing with had a criminal history score of 9, which the mayor will know is about as long as your arm. It was between 4 and 5 pages, single-spaced. So even though it was a very low-level burglary, attempted burglary 3, because it was a business, there wasn't anybody else present, he did go to prison for it. And it is an absolutely phenomenal investigation. So I just wanted you to know the good work that Officer Cater did. But I'm glad Sergeant Hawkinson is here, because I tell you what, this one is still active, but 2 people who got access to a business, and he figured out how they got access to the business, went in and took some copper, which is worth a lot of money, and between the video, how he figured out who got in there, what was missing, and they turned off the security camera so that it wouldn't be on video when they took these things, but he figured that out because he figured out who had access and what time that person had asked for access. So even then, when he went to see that that video was turned off, well, tell me about these people who got access. Well, they're staying at this place. Well, let's go see if there's video at that place. Looky there. Right at that time, there's video at that place. And what is it that's missing? Well, let's see. Who might they take and sell that? Let's go talk to them. And there they are on video, not only selling that equipment, but high-fiving each other when they saw how much they were going to get for it. The amount of time and effort, think of the size of the file. So there's video from the business, there's video from the place that they were staying, there's video from the place that they stole the stuff. There's probably body camera when you sprung on them what it was that you knew at that point. I didn't read the whole file because it's huge, but when we look at the complaint, my complaint was how come it took so long to get through the system? Well, because both of the people involved do have jobs. And if they have jobs, they're less likely to commit more crimes, especially to get more money. So they're going to pay all the restitution and all the fines because we've worked with them to try to keep their jobs. And we're going to let them do it by Zoom so that they don't lose their jobs. So kind of some of the encapsulation of all the different things we see in the system. When we get an investigation that awesome from Sergeant Hawkinson, we can charge that. And we can walk that right through the system. The victims had a lot to say about how this is going to be settled. It is still pending the sentencing so that they can come to that sentencing and pay the restitution and the fines and not lose the jobs that they have. So really a good example of how it's supposed to work. And as I say, we talk to your chief, talk to your officers every day. Literally in the beginning of a contract, that's not unusual. And we went into this contract hoping that that's how it would go, and we just can't be more pleased with the interaction that we've had with the Paynesville Police Department this year, with the quality of these investigations. You had 14 felonies by 12 different people, because not surprisingly, some of them, especially in the domestic violence area, if they've got one, they've got more than one. And VOTIF was out in your town this year. Seen that with a number of the small towns. Very commonly in the past, we would hear our chiefs in the smaller jurisdictions complaining that the Violent Offender Task Force didn't necessarily get to their town. They got to your town. They got to a bunch of towns here on the west end, and most of them were first-degree controlled substance crimes. Because if they're out there chasing the bigger fish. And we're able actually to get some of those. So because we have a lot of active investigations, I don't want to name names in specific places, but at the same time, I really do want to compliment your agency on what they're doing. Chief Wagner's doing a fine job of training his people, and we can literally prove that to you. Questions?
Good, thank you, Janelle, appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks for having us. We very much appreciate having the contract, and that'll come out, let's see, not this year, but every other year. We'll send that to Tariq. And you don't have to wait for me to come on the annual report back to you. Feel free to call at other times you do. I know that Chief's got my number.
All right,
Yeah.
Thank you.
so much. Right. There's no action for us to take on that. Thankfully, we're not looking at a proposal for increased cost. Not being listened to anyway.
Yeah, should leave it that way.
All right, let's go down to new business E, since Kateri Gruber is here from the library to talk about it. This is something that we sort of mentioned in passing a while ago, but we applied for some grants, and now it's come back up. Basically, there is a need for a handicap accessible door opener out at the library. This is something that I observed as a parent when I would try and go there with my kids in tow in a stroller. And admittedly, now that my wife works at the library, I hear stories from her about patrons in wheelchairs or other parents who need strollers trying to get in, and it is, I understand it can be a struggle at times. So I think we looked last year, staff got a quote for a door opener. The cost then was $6,300. The goal was to hopefully get grants for the bulk of the cost. We had applied at that point for a 50% grant. We were not awarded that. We were awarded $1,000, well, the Friends of the Library, when I say we, this is the Friends, not the city directly necessarily. The Friends of the Library were awarded $1,000 from the Painesville Lutheran Church Endowment Fund. And then there's also a grant application that was just submitted, what, 2-ish weeks ago?
Yep.
And how much is that one pending?
They should have a decision because they will take it to the board end of the month, and the request was for 2,000.
It was for 2,000.
Yeah.
Okay. The quote for 6,300 was from last September. I'm sure it's gone up a little bit because everything has. But frankly, I think there's a need for it. I'll let Kateri maybe talk a little bit more about the need. My proposal and request would be that the council pay for it, accept the donation from the Friends of the Library, and then pay for the rest of it out of the library's building fund. But Kateri, I know when I emailed you, you said you had a note from a patron. I don't know if you want to talk to us about why this would be helpful, or maybe read the note. I guess I'll leave it at you, but I think it's a need that's long overdue.
Sure. Accessibility and safety has always been a key point at the library for new builds, renovations, and just how our library is organized. And currently, the Painesville Library entry vestibule presents the difficulties to access that have been noted over the years since the library's renovation in 1996, 1997. I do have letters back asking for door openers from that far back. And I know, again, you guys have there's limitations on space, priorities, capacity, and everything. It just has come up again because of these grants that have come forward. And I know the question will come up, well, we're going forward for a new library build. Why would we do this now? And honestly, what I would say is that, we have these plans and we're hoping for a quick build, but plans change, things happen, costs go up. And at this point, we're kind of our patrons have been waiting since 1997 when the first ask went through. So, how long do we wait? And accessibility features also up the resale values. But one of the things I did want to talk about is, because our vestibule is so small, it makes it difficult for people trying to get through both doors with wheelchairs, rollators, knee scooters, rollers, or strollers, and carts, and even for staff when we're hauling tables, carts, equipment in and out for events and programs. And so what we've kind of done is we're trying to meet the current need by propping the inner door open constantly, which I know raises the heating and cooling costs. It blocks our utility closet door, so we have to make sure to like close it after close and make sure it's available if someone needs to get to it quickly. And it also, like when people try to help to hold the door open, usually that causes even more of a problem because it's a bottleneck because the space is so small. So this leaves one door open that someone can help hold over if we need to. We also have a doorbell currently. I don't know when that was installed, but it's been handy when COVID hit. We needed curbside service. It's also been helpful for our wheelchair. We've got at least this one wheelchair user that gave us a note that was like, yes, it would really help for me to get into the library and not bother workers if I didn't have to ring the doorbell and wait for them to come from wherever they are or drop what they're doing to come and run and help me open the door. And we have to do that because she can't sit outside in the cold in the winter. So being able to, and again, we've gotten that response when we even do curbside, is people feel like they're inconvenience us to do that. And that's not a position we want to put people in when we want to be accessible to all. So it's been something we've been hoping for a while. But yeah, I know the priorities kind of came ahead and some of the new library build considerations. So ultimately, yes, our local library it should be accessible to all of our patrons as much as possible. And I know you guys have been super supportive of the library, and I'm just thankful you guys let me come here and talk about what we need. Any questions?
Is it possible that this could be used in the new library on a door or not?
It depends on the installation, like what's required with the installation. Because I think the estimate was for two openers and 4 buttons, and I don't know how movable those are. I would think, from what it sounded like, they were like, oh yeah, super easy install. So I don't know if that would be. I don't know if it also depends on if we have double doors in the new space versus the single doors, So I'm not sure.
I think it's certainly something we can look into. I think going back to, your comment about you have the doorbell that works well.
When kids aren't ringing it.
So there's that, there are the false alarms, but then there's also, I think, sort of a self-dignity perspective of being able to just push the button and get in yourself rather than waiting for somebody and hoping that.
And they know, when they do that sometimes we're on the phone with patrons and I have to be like, hey, can you hold on for a second because I have to get the door, because again, I'm not going to leave her outside while it's winter so she can get in.
Right.
And so she feels bad about that, and I'm like, please don't feel bad, but hopefully we can get this resolved.
Now, we are pursuing a $2,000 grant.
Yep.
And if we approve this, we can still accept.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll find out by the end of the month from the charity.
Or we can accept this 1,000 and just sit on it till we accumulate more, or
Yeah, I know in talking to Pat Hansen with the Friends, her thought was either we move forward on it or they're going to have to return it to the church endowment fund.
and I see the grants are open from the community foundation. Is this something we should be applying for there? For 1,000 or 2?
It is possible, however, I'm trying to think of what it was set at. They basically just changed the criteria and are not really considering smaller. The feeling was
They want to go after.
not by me, but by others. I think it's just more of what they've been encouraged to do by the larger, umbrella corporation, is that, larger grants make larger differences. So it might not be something that would be considered for that amount. I'm not saying you shouldn't, just it might not be considered. So, and regardless of whether we could use it on the new building or not, which I don't think we could, because that would be quite the job. It would make, whatever goes in there is gonna have to probably do accessibility requirements anyway, so it would probably help with a better price for the building if we decide to sell it.
I'm afraid that's like putting white walls on a used car.
Well, you gotta do it.
But I also think that building's got a lot of life left in it.
Yes.
We've talked about moving potentially the DMV down there, or
Yeah.
potentially the PD down there. So
It offers a lot of services to the citizens, and that's just, I mean, it is what it is. It needs to be accessible to them.
I think it needs to be accessible. I don't know that the cost is excessive. We have been putting some money into the library's building fund, so there are some funds there that we can pull from. And I think if the grants come through, we'd also talked about reaching out to the Lions. I don't know if that's happened. But this is probably something they would be interested in
I
doing.
bet they would.
We can always apply those funds back to the building fund at that point.
Because as far as, we didn't budget for this, or, you know, if we don't get any other grants, it has to come out of surplus.
Right, I think the expectation when we first started talking about it was that 50% grant, I think we thought was more of a shoe-in, and then we got denied for it. The thought was it would only cost the city, you know, $1,000 or $2,000, and then we were denied that 50% grant.
Yep, that's true.
How much are we looking at? Sorry.
Well, it's 6,300 and we have 1,000 already,
I mean,
and we're looking at, if we, I mean, I think our chances are fairly good at this other grant, but
What's-
we won't know until, by the next council meeting, actually, I might know.
what's in the building fund?
I don't,
We've been putting 10 and 15 in a year, so let's say, depending on when deposits fall, between 20 and 30,000.
Could Pat live with it, that we wait till the end of the month and see where we're at? And in that time, we can maybe ask the Lions, and we'd know on this other grant and know exactly where we are?
I don't know how much pushback, if any, she's been getting from the endowment fund.
I'm not sure.
Doesn't matter, okay.
I could still go to the Lions regardless of how you guys go today, and
Right, and I think we need to just move forward with it. I think it's an accessibility issue that's overdue. I think if we get grants, great. Otherwise, it's something that we should just, it's an improvement that needs to be made.
Yeah, we can pull it from the building fund, and then if we do get something from the Lions or whatever else, we can put it back.
Paul's been awfully quiet down there in the end.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to know what I got to say.
Well, why would he ask if he didn't?
Okay, well, something like this, it seems like it's kind of a no-brainer, especially if it's more along the lines of ADA. But the problem that I have is a while back, we gave a $23,000 discount on a bill that was owed to the city for a problem that happened. Now, this kind of money, that if we would have received that, this would have been a no-brainer. But instead, we're debating over back and forth of where's this money gonna come from, the Lions, this and that, where had we just gone ahead and charged what was ultimately owed to the city, as a bonus because of a problem that the company had, we wouldn't be having as much of a discussion as it is right now.
Well, that money wouldn't be in the library building fund regardless.
Regardless, it still would have become to the city.
Yeah, I think we probably would still be having it, because I think like Megan's point is that money would have gone to the sewer fund.
Yes, it would have.
And so every other fund would have been in the exact same
Yeah, I
position
know.
it's in now.
But can I see my point, though?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, revenue's revenue, no matter how you look at it. But where it goes is up to the council to decide where it goes into the CIP and which fund.
Well, not if it's a sewer bill. It goes to the sewer fund.
Well, there is money in the library building fund,
Yes.
which we pretty much earmarked for the new library. But at the end of the day, this 5,000 could come out of there with the hopes to replenish it from
From future.
other sources.
Yep.
Yeah. The
And
two
with
worst
that in mind,
ones in
I'm okay
history.
with
We'll go to the Lions meeting and ask them for
I mean,
it.
I
I'd
also,
say take it out of the library fund, and then let's work on replenishing it.
so we're gonna I think the other thing is, you know, there's been a lot of talk about showing we're serious about improvements to the library and our commitment to it. I would hope that this could be viewed as a symbol of our commitment to the library and ensuring that it functions for everyone. Whether or not it is, I don't know, but that's my hope.
Right.
And if I could add something to that, if
Yeah.
we go ahead and go through with this, hopefully it can be retrofitted to the new library that comes in where it's still gonna be used. Instead of, one and done, throw it away and buy a new one that's basically serving the same purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if it wasn't on the main doors, to your point, like, we have a delivery door in the back that they have to kind of like, so, even if it was on another single door that could just be switched over, that even having one in our delivery
Right.
area would be,
And part of that, Paul, would depend on, like the mayor said, what the use of the building is. If we sell it, or if we keep it for like DMV, you'd probably want to keep the opener on it.
Yeah, well, if we sell it and the use changes, I would assume they would have to put it on anyway as part of ADA, and then they're gonna want that taken off of the sale price. So either way, it will help, whether we keep it or sell it, so.
Well, I will make the motion to approve the purchase of an ADA accessible door opener for the library and accepting the $1,000 grant funds from the Friends, and then continuing to push for other resources that could be used to replenish anything the city has to pay.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion by Ranky, seconded by Brick. Any other discussion on it?
And this would be coming out of the library building fund.
Yes.
And if I could also add that we get at least 3 quotes for it?
It's hard to find. The quote we got was, I think,
You correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Brad reached out to a number of companies and only got one quote. If you've got it, Terry, if you could share.
Yeah.
But I think we only got one back.
Well, if the attempt has been made, then we're good. Okay,
And
thank you.
we might need to do it again if that one's expired.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree.
Okay.
Let's reach out to multiple people and
Sure.
be cautious of it, but. Or if I think it makes sense to move ahead at this point. So, all right. Then with that, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Great.
thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
You need this back?
You can keep it if you want. I can
Okay.
keep copies.
All right, now, let's start at the beginning of our agenda with the consent.
I'd like to pull one item.
Sure.
I want to discuss a little bit about the gambling premise permit for the Cronus Brewing.
Okay, so we're pulling D. All right, then on the consent agenda are the minutes listed on page 1, the vouchers on page 2 totaling $227,007.08. The raffle for the Painesville Baseball Club, skipping D. Then we have the 2025 sewer install license and the gambling raffle for the Chamber of Commerce. All in favor of or is there a motion for the amended consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Hersberg, second.
I have a question first.
Okay,
Which one is being pulled again?
D.
D as in dog.
D. Okay.
So we'll take that up under new business H.
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Okay. Please do not let me forget to touch on that if I do.
okay.
All right, going to old business, page 20. Adding language regarding the brew pub sale license. Tark, what's going on here?
Well, we just had to add the language from last time, as you know, that we went through, and I really don't think there's anything else that changed in there.
We couldn't just do that administratively?
I guess we could have.
So this is the same thing, it goes through the 3-1 language that we discussed last time, yes?
Yeah, just so we have the final version.
All right. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Motion to approve the, I guess, amended ordinance, I don't know. Ordinance 57 third series. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Brick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. All right. Sale of land to AMPI, Tarek and/or Chuck and/or Dan.
Chuck?
Sure. This was actually in front of the council, I think back in December. Since then, we've gone through and actually had to plat the property, or are in the process of platting it, and it required a rezoning, so that's all in the works. Essentially what this resolution pertains to is since we received state funds for the last project that involved improvements out there, that property became a bond finance property. Therefore, we got to get MMB's permission in order to sell it. And the proceeds from that will be turned back to the state. So this is basically the resolutions required and the checklist that's required to be submitted for this process.
All right, so then with that, we're looking at a motion to approve Resolution 25-08, approving the sale of land to AMPI, and then going through the checklist.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Thielen. Motion by Bricker, stated on the action sheet, seconded by Thielen. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. All right, Dan or Chuck on the trail, please.
Chuck?
All right. As I mentioned last week at the work session, the plans for the first phase of the trail extension to connect the Lake Coronis recreational trail up to the Glacial Lakes Trail is complete. This section, as shown on the map, is along County Road 130, basically from Highway 55 up to 185th. The plans have been reviewed and approved by MnDOT, and so we are ready to proceed with bidding. In addition, we finally did get a price back from the railroad to extend the crossing to accommodate the trail, the off-road trail. That cost came in at $120,000. We were told today that they're hoping actually that they're gonna reduce that cost for us, so, but that was their original estimate. So the plan would be to include that cost in the bid so that it's part of our grant, so it can be covered by the grant we have for the project. So with that, if we want to move forward, we would ask for the request to authorize bidding. We plan to open bids later, or advertise in March 19th and open bids in mid-April for consideration.
With that, I'd be looking for a motion to proceed with the project and authorize.
I will make the motion to proceed with the project, authorize advertisement for bids.
Motion by Hersberg is stated on the action sheet. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Brick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. All right, airport equipment grant. Tark, this one's you. You can't
Yep.
run it off.
No, yeah, this is the grant agreement that we received. As you know, we were approved for the grant to get the new moral out of the airport. And correct me if I'm wrong, Chuck, they're paying 80% of this grant?
75.
75%. And they just sent over the agreement for us to approve and sign so that they can get things moving. So the grant is approved.
The other 5%, no. All right, so we're just looking for a motion to approve the equipment grant agreement and the resolution of the same. Going once, going twice.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Thielen, as stated on the action sheet. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Hersberg. Any further discussion? None. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay. Public Works, we need new trucks, huh?
Couple. These two are Dan.
I assumed, I was just getting there.
Okay.
Dan, you want to talk to us about new trucks?
First one is the purchase of a new Chevy 1500 pickup to replace the 2013 pickup we currently have, and to take the 2003 Ford pickup and get rid of that one and hand me down the current one. We went to Chevy and Ford, the two locals. I gave them a bid sheet and asked for them to get the state bid pricing to us. They both said they could. So they gave us the pricing. We did pull up the state bid pricing for comparable, to make sure we're in the ballpark. So we do have 3 different pricings that we came up with on both vehicles. We felt that everything was fair from the Chevy. They had our additions in there that we asked for. We recommend approval for those vehicles.
It was suggested last week at our retreat that if we are looking at possibly having to buy snow plowing equipment, that we should hold off on these trucks for a while. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that is entirely up to the council. It was on the schedule in the CIP. Ron put it there, so I brought it forward.
Neil, we had a discussion on this in Public Works. Maybe give us an update on that one?
Well, we did talk about that. And if we didn't buy the 2 trucks, it would be money that we could use on the next dump truck if we end up going that route. But after much discussion, the recommendation from the Public Works was to approve the purchases because back a few years, we put off buying and put off buying. And then all at once you're at the bottom of the curve and you gotta work your way back up and it throws there. Our depreciation is 10 years. And both of these vehicles are over that 10-year period, so the recommendation was to go ahead with these pickups and see where the snow plowing ends up.
Yep.
Now I have another thing, and I already know I will be lucky if I get one person who joins me in this, but on page 55 or 54 of the agenda, there is a Ford truck that is cheaper than what we've been quoted. The difference is that it runs on electricity instead of gasoline. Is that something that we might want to consider, considering that these trucks don't leave town? We don't really have to worry about range or anything like that, and just see how they work and how they run.
And we don't have a charging station in town?
We have a charging station. It's called a Volt in there. It's an outlet in the shop.
That's an overnight
It'd
charge.
be your truck, Dan.
How much cheaper?
If it's a local drive, it makes sense. It's just, I'm concerned about charging.
I get it. I'm just throwing it out there so we can talk.
How much cheaper is it?
Now I'm looking here. I misread the sheets. It's $500 more.
Oh,
I think maybe in the future, I don't think the electric vehicles are at the par that it would be a good purchase for us.
And I don't think it would be good for a squad. I know the city of Sartell was looking at squad cars that were electric. I don't think that it would be good there. But I thought, why not as a public works vehicle that drives around town and puts on, what, 50 miles a day, maybe?
I don't know, less.
Right, so,
You gotta get a charging station.
and,
Well, there's one at Teal's, but who's gonna sit there for a half hour?
You'd have to wire one into the shop.
Yep.
it'd be an overnight thing.
Right.
Is that something that we ought to consider, or see where the technology takes us over the next couple of years?
I think at this time, given that it's more expensive, I don't know.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, not much. I don't know that it's worth it right now, especially because they're unanswered, where the charging and stuff is gonna take place, although it'll just be overnight. But, I mean, I think that in the future, I don't think it's a bad idea for a vehicle, like you said, that's not just gonna be around town a little bit.
Oh, I have a question. Would there be any way to find out if any other cities in their public works are using an electric vehicle, electric truck? And if there are, find out what their response is?
I could throw something out on the mayor's listserv. That's probably going to be our best shot, unless you've got an MMUA or a public works, not MMUA, but like a public works director's listserv or email group.
Through the League of Cities, there's usually one that you can get into.
Yeah.
Just to get their opinion and see what happens.
The research I've done is when it's 30 below, you get next to no service out of the electric vehicles. And when it's 30 below and we got a blizzard and snow, that wouldn't be good.
Now, the reason is because it all goes towards heating the cabin if it's got a resistance heater. So I just wanted to throw it out there.
I wouldn't recommend it for Jason's pickup, but you're talking my pickup?
Yeah.
So I don't have a strong opinion on that,
Okay.
one way or the other. Like I say, if it was the 2500, I'd
Yeah.
probably say I'm not that into that. For the 1500, it's up to you guys.
I can live with saying no, I just wanted to ask since it was on here. I knew it was going to be a tough sell, so I wasn't gonna waste too much breath on it. But I do think it's something that we should consider, especially as we look into, Brad's truck is probably next on the half-ton replacement list.
Yeah.
This is getting rusty.
Yeah, he's getting rusty, so, I don't know, just food for thought as we move forward is all.
I think that's a good idea, just think about it for down the road.
Yeah, I am a little bit leery about trucks when I wish we had a better answer on the snow plowing situation and what we're going to do there.
Yeah.
I understand entirely, and I agree with Public Works, that you can't let things fall too far behind. Because things fell behind during the pandemic, we couldn't get trucks on the lot. I'm also worried that if suddenly we're slapped with 25% tariffs, these trucks go from 40 grand to 50.
Right?
So. It's a quagmire.
Changing pricing, we can certainly stop the order.
Right, we could, yeah. Neil would come up with the difference.
I'll second that one.
Well, we can entertain a motion here. I don't know, we're talking about the 1,500 right now, we're on page 47. I would absolutely entertain a motion on it.
I'll make the motion representing the Public Works Committee to go ahead and purchase the 1,500 from Painesville Chevrolet in the amount of $43,165. Funds to come from water equipment, sewer, and street funds, CIP funds.
There's a motion by Hersberg as to part one of this, as stated on the action sheet. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Thielen. Thought we had a noise ordinance.
I do have one question before we vote. Page 49, the 1,400 extras, is that included in the 43,000?
Yes.
Okay, so that's total expense.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I would say that the fact that Ford is coming in at $13,000 more than Chevy might explain why the F-150 is no longer the best-selling vehicle in America.
We could go with Dodge.
I mean, we could, but Fiat's had some problems lately.
Why the no, Cody?
All right. Calling the question, all in favor of purchasing the vehicle indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? None, motion carries. Are we gonna surplus that then?
Yep.
Motion to declare the 2003 Ford F-150 as surplus property and authorize advertisements for bids using the min bid with no minimum bid.
No minimum.
As surplus when the new one comes in?
Do what?
Designated as surplus when the new one comes in?
When the new one comes in.
Okay. Motion by Thielen to declare the 2003 as surplus when we get the new truck in stock. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second,
Seconded by Brick. Heard it there first, Neil, sorry.
that's fine.
All in, any,
I have a question. Does the 2003 isn't gonna bring a ton of money? It's really, really rusty. Does it pay to go on min bid with that?
I mean, from what we've seen on min bid, and of course, Paul, you've had experience on it too. I mean, it will bring in something. I don't know how much. That's why we're not setting a minimum.
Well, I'm just thinking on something like that, it'd be better to park it by the RV dump and put signage and Facebook and whatnot and try to sell it locally as a wood hauler or
I think we can still part it out there and say,
do both.
I think do both.
But if we put it with min bid, somebody sees it, they have to go through min bid.
Yep,
So we'd have to make that clear on the signage
Yeah.
or whatever.
yeah.
I'm okay with both.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion to declare it a surplus when the new one arrives. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Motion carries. All right, let's talk about Jason's truck now.
I was just gonna say real quick, it looks like MnDOT has created a software tool that determines, just like the suitability of electric replacements in Minnesota cities. along with Excel, so that might be something to look at working with them on in the future.
Oh, and then I guess it would be appropriate, wouldn't it?
Yes.
All right. Once again, here, Hazel Chef came in cheaper than Yarman. Not as much this time, but
And the same thing here, Public Works did recommend this, and minimum bid on the 2011 is 16,000, so we would be getting a little bit back.
Yep.
And of the two trucks, I would say this one probably makes the most sense. This one has a plow on it, don't it? No? I thought
We are getting, with the new one, we're getting the capability of putting a plow on.
put a plow on it.
Yeah, we're getting set up for that. And then it's got a towing package so we can pull the jetter and stuff also.
And just like my question before, the supplement package is part of it, the undercoating, whatnot.
Yep, and that's all included in the price that I gave to you.
Yep, for the 50, okay. Unless somebody has something else, I'll make the motion to go ahead with the purchase. 2,500 HD pickup from Painesville Chevrolet, amount of $50,395, funds to be split, water, sewer, and street and sidewalk.
motion by Hersberg is stated on the action sheet to buy the new vehicle. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Brick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. All right, do we want to declare this one as surplus, folks?
Yep.
Tarek does, but he can't make the motion.
Can't.
I'll move to declare it a surplus.
Motion by Brick to declare it a surplus as stated on the action sheet. Is there a second to this?
Second.
Seconded by Thielen. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. All right. Dan, buying a pressure washer.
The city, the guys and I are requesting a pressure washer. Currently, all we have is a small pressure washer that's cold water only. We do have enough equipment that needs good cleaning. We have the mowers and all that, but more essential than that is our tractor, the blower, all that goes out in the snow and the salt, and to get it properly cleaned, our current system doesn't do that. New pressure washer would help extend the life of our equipment by getting all that material off. So hot water is just way above anything else. This piece of equipment, I have purchased 3 in the past. It is a local vendor, proven performance with this piece of equipment, and it's way cheaper than a lot of what's out there. And I think this has been brought to your attention before, but the cost was about double. I see it in Ron's file, there was some information in the past. But this is an excellent piece of equipment that I've got a long history of using.
My only thought is, and I don't think they make the industrial size style that you're looking for, but doesn't Valley Industries do pressure washers?
They do pressure washers, yeah. I don't know if they do heated though.
Right, that's where I think the difference is. I don't know that they give us what we need, but by any chance, did we reach out to them and see if they could do this?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. And I don't know that they can. I just, if we had a local supplier, I wanted to make at least sure that we checked with them beforehand. Because I was paying attention on the tours last year.
I didn't see that in Ron's record, and the guys didn't.
I don't think they make a heated one that,
Yeah, I don't think that they do either.
And I can certainly check, I just.
That would be my only request, is that if we approve it and I'm in favor of it, that you at least give them a jingle and say, by chance, do you guys sell this and how much? And if they do and it's comparable, then let's bring it back. That would be my only suggestion.
That's fair.
So I've used one like this before, and the heat makes a world of difference.
Oh, yeah.
So, especially with some real stubborn stuff. So,
What was the name of it? local company?
It's Valley, yeah.
Valley Industries, right off Lake Avenue.
They're just before you go over the bridge on the north there.
No, otherwise, I think it makes sense. The cost is not that, I think it's a very reasonable.
Well, the other ones are electric, but I think with the diesel, or the number 2 kerosene, you're gonna be saving money in the long run.
So can we make the motion contingent on Valley's response?
Go for it.
Yeah, you can make the motion.
That was my
like-
motion. Make of that what you will.
There's a motion by Brick to purchase a pressure washer as stated from PSI Power Washers in the amount of $57.95 with funds to be split between all public works departments. And then just a direction to staff to check with Valley Industries to make sure we can get it locally. And that if for some reason we can, then we'd bring this back in our next meeting.
And if we can't, go ahead.
Yep, if we can't, then it's approved. Go ahead. So motion by Brick for that. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Hersberg. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, motion carries. Okay, page 72, the brew pub license. Again. Tarek, what are we doing here?
Oh boy, I don't have much information on this.
Oh, they've just, okay, they've applied for it, they've paid
Yeah,
the
that was
fee.
it. Kristen, I know, did the application processing. for it.
Okay, so we're just approving this like we would any normal liquor license or tobacco license.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion?
And they've already purchased the 3,400 off-sale Sunday liquor, yes.
Yes, I remember passing.
So this would be in addition to that because of the brewery.
Yep, this is the growler stuff that we dealt with last meeting, and then
We had to change
we
over.
did the amended stuff back in Old Business A.
I'll make the motion to approve the brew pub off-sale license for Coronas Brewing LLC in the amount of $200.
I'll second.
Motion by Hersberg, seconded by Brick. All in favor, or any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Okay. All right. Paul, you want to sell a car?
Yes, please.
Okay. Megan will buy it.
Will I?
I don't know.
Yeah, so we've
I
got,
have a car sitting over my house right now.
the forfeited vehicle. That case has gone through completion in the court system, so the vehicle now is officially the city of Painesville's. So we'd like to get that thing sold to, on min bid.
How much can you get for a 25-year-old Honda?
Well, for vehicles that sell for $600.
More than a 2003 Ford.
Maybe.
Okay.
Neil's got a point about it being a good wood hauler yet.
No, I don't expect this to, bring in a lot of money, to be honest with you. It's just more or less taking up space.
Yeah.
Anybody want to move that we sell this?
So moved.
Megan, thank you.
You're welcome.
Motion by Brick to sell the 99 Honda Passport through min bid.
Second.
Seconded by Hersberg. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, motion carries. Going back up to page 9, Neil wanted to pull this. This is the gambling permit here for River Lakes Hockey.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, sir?
Well, I see they want all types of gambling, pull tabs, paper and machine, bar bingo, tip boards, paddle wheel at table, electronic pull tabs, electronic link bingo. And I'm not totally against it. I'm just want to make a comment that we do have Legion and Lions that have bingo, and both give an awful lot of local contributions to organizations, fire department, school activities, you name it. I think the Legion last year was pushing 50,000. And I know the Lions give a lot. And I realize that hockey needs funds too for their operation, and the clientele may be different at the pub than at the Legion and Queen Bee. But like bingo, there is bingo every night of the week within about a 10-mile radius of Painesville. And I would have felt better if bingo wasn't on there, but, and unless they have a very good gambling manager, the record keeping for all this gambling is considerable.
Yeah.
But that's not our problem. I'm not against it, but I wanted to say that we have some wonderful organizations now that are, so if they lose a portion of bingo or whatever, contributions will probably be down.
And it might be that they try and realize how much bookkeeping and everything is gonna go into it and end up dropping some of those things anyway.
Well, bingo is the most bookkeeping,
Yeah,
and workers, and yeah, it's, and maybe they just checked them all, you know.
That's my.
I just wanted to make it aware that,
yeah.
So I have to disagree with this. It was a while back that the city council decided to cut back a donation by half for the hockey arena. Now, the cost of like everything else in the world is going up, so why not give them a chance to make up for those lost funds by having,
well, those lost funds, Paul.
okay, I'm not done, Neil.
No, okay.
Okay,
Wanted
why
to-
not give them the chance to make up for it, and make sense of it even more? But by allowing one or two establishments to have the bingo, I would say let competition decide that and decide where the customer wants to go instead of limiting them that. So go ahead, Neil.
I'm not going to discuss it now, but sometime in private, I'd love to tell you why the hockey thing just
No, I think we should hear it
goes back about
now.
30 years. It goes back about 30
Well,
years.
I think we should hear it now then.
No, I don't think
You
so.
open the door.
I don't think that anyone's saying that we shouldn't do it. I think it's just being brought up that we do have organizations already that donate to the city. Because I didn't hear Neil say that we shouldn't do it. I think it's just, we're discussing, we just want people to be aware that there are other organizations that, already do those things and that we should be supporting as well. But, I mean, if we're gonna give gambling licenses to the other establishments, then there's no reason we can't give it to this one. And we'll see what happens.
Well, I think to Neil's earlier point, and I agree with Paul on the Hockey Association has a right to increase funds for their building. I think all of that is right. But the purpose of giving cities final say in approving gambling in their community, as I understand it, is to make sure that these funds are going to a charitable cause that benefits the community. And I do have to admit to taking issue, a small issue, with having all gambling funds and activities from a single business going towards one nonprofit group.
I mean, especially given in this case that many of the investors are, deeply involved with the hockey organization.
And hockey ain't
But
cheap.
it is what it is.
It is.
So,
Hockey is big in Minnesota. We support it. It's not a cheap activity. I get that. But I think Neil is right. The Legion and the Lions Club, and I know, somebody's going to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the Lake Henry's Lion Club that does the gambling for Queen Bees. Painesville does bingo. But then, of course, there's the Legion that does everything out there. They give back to all of the causes around town that aren't just hockey.
Yeah.
And I would guess they would probably give some to hockey too, if the request were made.
yeah.
So it does give me a little bit of pause if we are going to approve that this entire facility go solely for hockey. Because I do think that it is going to take away from the other businesses. I agree, the free market should decide at some point, but if the free market means that the Legion, which gives to the entire community,
can't support that anymore, then I think we as a community have just shot ourselves in the foot.
I would be interested to know how many people who regularly attend bingo will be interested in this type of establishment, though, too. But again,
I'm
don't
not
know.
thinking just bingo.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more.
I know, I'm just saying if we're concerned about the cut from the Lions in bingo, I don't know. I think that the people who play Lions bingo are pretty well established where it is, but we'll see.
The Hockey Association decides it's not feasible, they're not gonna continue it.
Agreed.
But I don't think we wanna get in the business of telling what establishment what they can allocate money towards and what they can't. Because then we're gonna be opening the door for a lot bigger argument.
Well, but I think this is a situation where we do, and I could be wrong, but I believe that this is a situation where we do have the right to say, sorry, we don't support that. And I'm not saying we don't support hockey, shut my mouth. I think we can say we want to support something with a broader impact, and we want to improve a license with a broader impact.
Or limited offering.
Or limited, I mean, because we've done that, we've done the one-offs, you know, we're doing them here, the baseball club, the one-off. We've done, you know, like the band program one-offs at Queen Bee's. We do one-offs like that all the time. And band program raised 14 grand with the one bingo at Queen Bee's.
Yep.
Shit, that's way more than the donation the city has been making for hockey.
Ducks Unlimited and River Bottom Bucks are a big
Yep.
example.
The hockey club could easily do a bingo, and Doris would probably cooperate. Or they could do a one-time event at this
Quarterly or-
establishment.
I'm just, it does strike me a little bit wrong that we're saying that all gambling from this facility is going to go to just this one group. That's the part that gets me a little bit, because where's the community impact on everything going to one particular nonprofit?
Well,
I would believe that there are more than one in the state of Minnesota that just goes towards one nonprofit.
I mean, probably, but that doesn't mean we
But
have
my
to.
guess also is that there's probably more establishments that are doing it within a larger population. Because right now, we're kind of narrowed.
Can we table it?
Why?
Because I want to think about it.
I know at one time Queen Bee's had their pull tabs go to the Lake Henry Legion, which is out in the middle of the country. And I'm surprised there's even people that go to there, but that's the way they decided to do it. That's the way it went.
I don't know, or we could speak to some of them and to let them know what our concerns, it might just not be anything that they've considered, you know, it's like it's a brand new thing for them as well, so.
Yeah, I don't think
would-
there's any ill intent by anybody.
Right, I think I would rather, personally, I would rather table it and have a discussion about our concerns and,
Maybe
because
some
it
of
could
the,
be that they'll say, okay, well, that makes sense, let's do X amount to whatever, or something else, you know?
maybe some of their people could come to the meeting and
Yeah,
tell us what we need to know.
That'd be a good idea.
I was trying to look through the application here real quick to see if we have to approve within X amount of time.
yeah.
I don't see
It says
it.
this may be terminated by either party
Right.
with a written 30-day notice.
As if it's
That's if it's already goes through, though.
Yeah.
I don't see anything that would stop us from tabling. Normally, we just kind of do it administratively. Here, I would like a formal motion giving a reason why.
I move to table it for now because I would like some clarification on what the owners are thinking and if there's a possibility for broader community impact.
There's a motion to table by Brick in order to allow time to speak with the applicants, in order to determine more, or to gather more information about the intent of the operation and whether or not there's an opportunity for broader community impact. Did I get that right?
Sure.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
I heard it simultaneously.
Go ahead, Neil.
I don't care.
Fall gets it.
Okay.
Seconded by Thielen. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? That carries. We'll come back at our next meeting then.
Do we want to reach out and have them come? Do we want to have them meet with a particular board?
When's your EDAP meeting, Tark?
Tuesday,
Tuesday? Do you want to talk to Chris then? and
next week, Tuesday, yeah.
Okay. Why don't you talk, because you and Neil, you're on EDAP, talk
So
to
am I.
Chris. And then I think it would be nice if he could come or if somebody could be here.
Someone else I've been nominated to come.
I mean, we
Yeah.
aren't against them having gambling per se.
Well, we'll talk to them about it when they get
But,
here. I think, I think as long as we know there's no ill intent coming from them, and as long as we make it clear it's the same from us, then we'll chat about it and see what happens.
Yep.
Yeah, we gotta remember to ask Chris.
Okay. Then we have another number of pieces of informational here at the end that you can all read and go through. The reports, the conference, everyone contact Chris if you're going to Duluth. I'm probably not going to be there because I won't know if I'm able until like mid-April. And I'm guessing by then it will all be booked, so it's probably a no for me. Otherwise, there is in Stearns County Environmental Ordinance on there as well. With that, we're adjourned.